Alrighty, in this video, I'm gonna walk you through how I built what I'm calling a backyard booth. I wanted to design a covered seating option for my new RV park where people could work or eat outside. It has curved seat for comfort, really cool wooden louvers on 3 sides, and a transparent but UV resistant roof that is very simple to install. Let's get into how to build it. Like my other projects, I do have a set of plans with templates available if you want to build this. It comes with a shopping list, a cut list, and templates for these shapes. Now, I always start by cutting all of the needed templated parts first. I can lay the template on my board, trace it, and then cut it out. Now, I chose Western red cedar for this entire project. Since it's a naturally rot-resistant wood, it is my go-to for any outdoor project. And I have gotten in the habit of staining all my material prior to starting. This way it goes the quickest and I only have touch-up to do later for the cut edges. I personally think Western red cedar is a gorgeous wood, so I always choose the stain color cedar to go on top of it. Once everything was cut, I could start joining parts together. I'll warn you now, it's gonna look a little funky for a while, but trust the process. First, I grab what will be the seat bottom and the seat back, then used exterior rated screws to join them together. I will need 2 of these. Those guys are gonna make up the bench support in the center. Now I needed to join together the parts to make up the end supports. I recommend a clamp to hold the parts down while you screw on the top board, but you can see it's very simple and goes together quickly. I try and keep all my plans and templates simple so that everybody can tackle improving their space if they're motivated to. Next up, I started on the posts for the project, which are 4x4s. These actually get a notch cut into the top, which can be done with a circular saw. You can set the depth of the saw blade to cut to the depth needed in both directions. Then use a mallet to pop off the last bit. Western red cedar is a very easy wood to work with. You can use a chisel to remove the last bit if you need to. These are very lightweight, so next I moved them to my workbench to start attaching parts to them. I brought over the funky assembly first and made sure they weren't backwards, since these have a direction to them. After making sure it looked right, I rotated the parts so that I could assemble using gravity. I clamped them in place, then screwed them down. Now you can use some scraps or unattached parts to prop up the boards from the workbench so that the clamp heads don't interfere. Killer. Now let's join these posts together. I first hold my board in place and mark off where I want the screws. These need to avoid the previous screws I already put in. You can use a pocket hole jig if you have one, but I just used a drill bit to pre-drill at an angle, then followed it up with screws. And I don't know if you can tell, but I clamped the template for the back in place so that I could use it as a guide on where this angled part goes. I could butt it up against it, then screw it down. Next, I can go to what will be the bottom of the bench and screw in a cross member there, aligning it so that it's flush on both sides. Now we can fill in the center with the center supports we made at the very beginning. Now it's starting to make sense. With it in this orientation, I attach them to the footer first, pre-drilling to prevent splitting. Then I flip the entire assembly down to the ground to attach the other side. I just love how lightweight Western red is. By the way, I am building this in sections in my shop because I know I can easily move them to site afterwards. Alrighty, now let's attach some slats and turn this into a bench. I start with the back slat first, and you want to make sure that the posts are square before you attach it. You can see I asked Jacob to push the post in until it was flush with my slat. You can only use the slat as a reference if you cut it to the correct length. Then I moved to the front and attached that slat. This is gonna lock in the position of the bench, and now you can fill in the remainder without worrying about it getting out of whack. To make attaching the slats easy, I like to use a spacer that can be made from scraps. I also use a 15 gauge nailer since I have one. I did not have a 15 gauge in my lineup for years and years, so no an alternative is to pre-drill then screw these slats in. Okay, that is the assembly done for now. I set it aside and started building a new assembly on my workbench. This is gonna be the back that will eventually join the two bench assemblies I just made. I started off by making a big rectangle, nice and easy. Like that. Then I added in a cross section, and I do have angles called out in the plans. However, this is the method I use for getting those angles when I'm personally building. I'm a huge fan of mark in place. So for things like these, with these angles, just set the board underneath. Here's the absolute center line of this. This, I honestly just eyeballed, but you could find true center. This is lined up flush over here, and this way I just go to the inside and, oops, looking through the lens, there we go. And then also up here. A tip, I don't have a clamp long enough to hold this assembly in square, but you can use 2 join clamps to achieve the distance. For the inside of the booth, I really wanted at least a small little table, something big enough for a plate or a laptop. I first aligned boards that will make up this top, then used another board to screw them all together. The simple top can now be flipped up into place and attached to the center of the back. Then on the underside, a support is added. The thing to look for here is the top needs to be attached at a 90. I couldn't find my framing square, so I asked Jacob to hold up a board with 2 straight cuts. This way I could bend the top where it's at a 90 before screwing it down. The last thing I want to do while in the comfort of my shop is attach the hardware to make the louvers. I saw this at a trade show and thought it was ingenious. We have all been there where we're sitting on a deck or a pergola in the sunset just enough to ruin the party. So I love having the option of closing these up when it's a problem, but then opening them up when it's not. This system is from a company called Pylex, and it comes with everything you need. You start with temporarily attaching a template for pre-drilling holes so that you know where to next install the powder-coated louver holders. Each one gets a matching powder-coated screw and collar, which creates a standoff, allowing the hardware to rotate when attached. Pylex did a wonderful job at making this install simple for you, where the only thing you have to really pay attention to is the tightness of these holders. Too tight and they won't rotate, but too loose and they won't hold their position. What I did is I first did the assembly with a drill, but then I came back with a screwdriver to fine tune it. And this hardware works with 1x6s or 5/4 boards. All you have to do is cut them to length and then attach them to the underside. They also work with 4x4 or 6x6, but in my situation with 4x4s, the holders that are on the same post have to be cut down slightly to not run into each other. It's simple though. I use my miter saw to quickly cut them before attaching them to the posts. At this point, all of the louvers are independent of each other. To make them in sync, there is one more piece of hardware to attach. These straight connectors go from one slat to the next, then get overlapped while attaching. You will need to find an extender for your drill to get around the post, but after you're done working down the line, you can now rotate any single louver and they all follow suit. That's so cool! So imagine you're sitting in here and you want to have some sun or no sun. Yeah, that's slick. What a very cool design. I love this. This is perfect for so many projects. Obvious ones are things like decks or pergolas, but you can even use them for creating shop blinds or a privacy screen for a meditation area. Okay, one side, two side, and the back with the tabletop. Now, keep in mind that I chose to do it to where I built a portion in my shop. Now I'll load it up and finish it on site, but you could do this 100% on the job site if you would rather. The job site it's going to is my new RV park. If you want to check it out, I'll leave you a link in the description. I picked out a spot nestled in the trees, then Jacob and I started offloading them in place. I have almost nothing but rock around here, so I'm going on top of pavers instead of going into the ground. At this point, the big assemblies go together really quickly. Jacob could upright one while I aligned the other. Then I ran in some lags to lock them in place. Know that this back is adjustable. I sat down and made sure I liked it for a computer, but if you're taller or shorter, it can easily go up or down to accommodate. Once I was happy, I started attaching it down to the concrete pavers before moving on to building out the roof system. First step there was to attach the front and back beams. These are also cedar, so they are lightweight enough to lift into place, set it on the shoulder of the post. Make sure I found my pencil marks before attaching them with screws. To prevent racking, next I added in some corner gussets. At this point, Jacob would read plumb on the post before I set it with screws. This structure in the front should also prevent sagging when people sit on the front of the booth. Of course, I had to stand on it as well, but it still felt great, so I moved on to adding rafters. This is simple. I just toe-nailed in a rafter every 2 feet. Now, a lot of roofing systems require purlins or sheathing to go on next, but what I'm using doesn't. It's a system called Glaze by Palram, and they have designed these incredibly durable but lightweight panels to go directly on top of rafters. This makes for the fastest and easiest roofing system I have ever done, and at this point I have installed a lot of roofs. I first used the Glaze on a porch I built here at the park, but I chose a tent for that project. So know that they do come in different tents. This one I went with clear because the panels still block out 99.9% of the UV rays, but I love how they look like glass after the protective plastic is peeled off. A tip for making install even faster is to pre-drill one side of the panels on the ground in a stack. This way, as they get handed up, you're ready to screw them in without pulling out a tape every time. The screws do come with a washer on the head so that when you seat them properly, it smushes around the hole and plugs it. I personally think Glaze would be great for a patio, a deck, a pergola, a carport, or even a sunroom. I timed myself out of curiosity and it took me 28 minutes to install this roof system, which is insane to me. 1, great job Palram. But 2, if you've been putting off building yourself a cozy project in your backyard because you're intimidated, I would encourage you not to be. Products have come so far in making things easier than ever for builders to incorporate into their projects. Alrighty, with the roof on, the last thing to do was put the louvers on the back wall. The sun sets in this direction, so I think these will be open during the day to let a breeze in, but then closed in the setting hours. I love that each wall is independent of each other. Again, just a really cool product. Alrighty, and that wraps up this build of my backyard booth. It's funny because I'm actually really jealous I built this at Pure Stoke instead of my personal property. I love this thing. I think it turned out not only really cute, but also full of function. I love that Palram roof, which lets me see the sky, but takes out practically all of the UVs. The 3 wall louvers that allow me to have shade or privacy in any which direction. Then the comfortable seating of the benches. I know curves add a level of difficulty to builds, but that's why I sell the templates with the plans, to take out that complication. This way you still have an easy time of building, but get the added comfort of the more advanced product. Don't forget to check out all my other plans and templates for outdoor seating. And of course, leave me a comment and let me know what you think about this one. I will see you on whatever I'm building next, guys.